Our next speaker is Mr. Shreesha Nagar, Director, Digital Solutions. He's an award-winning business leader with 17 years of cross-functional experience in sales, marketing, management consulting, and software development. A regular speaker at industry forums on data center and emerging technologies, Shreesha is currently responsible for driving sales of digital solutions for electrical sectors, India at Eaton Power Quality Private Limited. Please put your hands together, everyone, for Mr. Shreesha Nagar.
Thank you. Yeah, very good morning to everyone. I've been speaking at this forum for quite a few years, and over these years, there have been many trends. There was energy efficiency, then there was security, there was trend on cloud, sustainability as well was one trend, and clearly looking at many of the presenters coming before me here, AI and automation seems to be the current trend, right? And we see that across all the public, everything we read on the internet on technology subjects, AI and automation. There's a lot of promises that it holds, and and even in data centers, in managing data centers, there is a lot of evolving thought on how automation and AI can be brought into the data center. Automation, of course, has been with us for many years, right? Now, irrespective of the size of the data center, what type of data center you have, there are many benefits of actually deploying automation or AI. For example, and some of them are really obvious. For example, predicting failures, then better planning, right, and reduced effort. These are some of the more common, benefits that comes to mind very quickly. But there are some other benefits as well. For example, managing knowledge, right? Especially as organizations, when people move out, a big chunk of knowledge that they have gained, the organization loses. So, and this is very relevant in data centers as well, right? And especially if you have, with the development of edge, you have a much wider physical deployment of IT, and where you lose people at the edge, then a significant amount of knowledge goes out of the organization. So how there are some thoughts on in fact what we can do about that. So there are multiple benefits, but what is really important right now is matching investment with ROI, right? So it's not like a stock market where the price is based on the assumption of what is future growth, right? As data center practitioners, we really need to match investment with the ROI, and and predict how the future is going to get developed, right? If you are a small organization and you have a small IT, right? How much data are you going to be generating that you can actually train a model to be predictive, right? There's not going to be enough data to train the model. So a lot of OEMs and suppliers are working on this problem, and most probably most of the AI services are going to be deployed as services which can be consumed by smaller data centers, right? So it's going to be a services-based future for AI and ML. So the good story is that a lot of things, we may not have to develop ourselves. So before we begin in terms of how do we leverage that, typically some sort of a management software is what is the core or the crux which collects data about the data center operations, and then you apply a lot of methodology, you apply automation to optimize this. So this is more or less how the current landscape look like. So what is very common is basically a gray space, right? Everything started with the BMS. We did building management systems. These are more SCADA based, and interacts with the physical devices powering your data centers, whether it is a diesel generator, cooling unit, fire systems, access control, and that has been deployed for a very long time. But the problem with BMS and especially SCADA systems is they don't tell anything about the data center operations, right? Which is where the bulk of the things are happening. So then came the DCIMs, right? Which So if you're only monitoring with BMS, then you're probably better off monitoring with DCIM, because a DCIM will give you, management of even the white space, right? It allows you to manage what are your assets inside a rack. It gives you a view inside the rack, and allow you to manage the power distribution on the data, within the rack, etc. Along with that, there is a lot of VM automation that came along within the DCIM, right? So now if there is any problem, then you can automatically manage a VM cluster itself. So DCIM has some intelligence now already built in, where you can do a lot of automation within that. Then you have, a lot of edge computing came in, right? So you had a lot of edge sites. So if you're a retailer or a healthcare provider, you have maybe around 200 different sites, and you started putting those, micro data centers or small IT in 200 sites. But then management of those sites has been completely fragmented, right? And every IT that you put in the edge site, it has its own login. It has got its own window into the IT, and and it is quite a fragmented solution. And that's where the managed services or monitoring services came in, where we had some third party or within your own team who are monitoring this core data center, edge sites, application, physical infrastructure. So as the previous speaker mentioned, monitoring and management has become quite distributed within a large enterprise. And when you talk of analytics and automation, the first and the foremost step where we have to invest is to get a single window and bring all the data in, because AI or ML works very well when you collect and correlate data from different sources and gather insights, right? So that is where, the main problem has been, how do you bring the edge into your management, framework? That has been the challenge, and at the core, there have been, many solutions. So quickly jumping on to how does it currently look like, right? So what is the future, and what is the stack that is the foundation on which we are going to build automation and AI. So if you look at the top side, right, the colors in the blue, this is where the current industry adoption lies, which is predominantly BMS, DCIM, etc. There are multiple flavors of these applications. An EPMS solution focuses more on the electrical infrastructure. An asset performance management system focuses more on how you are maintaining your assets, right? When is the maintenance cycle going to be, etc. But in short, they all have some south-end protocols, connect to device, they collect the asset information, and run some use cases, right? Whether if you are into more of a rack management and workflow management, you will be using DCIM, right? So these are some of the current features. But going forward is where a lot of machine learning and data science comes into picture. So now there are modules available within the converged application management suite, where you will have observability, anomaly detection, and large language models, and other IT and OT cybersecurity algorithms which are running, and these offer the services. So these are now already available in some sort of I would say, converged DCIM platforms, where you have multiple applications. Then you, of course, have the core, which is how do you bring the edge into the management framework. And with the growth of the edge computing, and that has become very important. And then the whole API layer, right? How do you expose and how do you future-proof this investment? See, when you are deploying a management platform, you are thinking really long-term, right? It's not about 2 years, 3 years. Definitely, you have to think about 5 years. And API is the way in which it's an insurance against the future. Because if there are more services which come in the future, you can connect it using the management layer that you have already developed. So going a bit into details of how do you, so the complexity in bringing the edge into your framework is, there is a lot of networks, there is a lot of latency, there might be communication pipe issues between the edge site and the core. So how do you bring the edge into a DCIM is, something, so this is how the Eaton solution typically works. So what you have, so typically what does a DCIM server do, right? So on the south side, it has a lot of protocols. It supports via, it collects information from the devices via BACnet, MQTT protocol or SNMP protocols. And, it brings that information. And it has got some automation logic. So for example, it might do hypervisor automation. It might do some, OS activity, system administration activity automation. Or it might do a simple PDU, remote outlet control, which we do a lot. So this is what a typical DCIM will do, and it will have a user interface which, replicates your management workflow, which your data center managed workflow. Now but your site is there, right? Now how do you bring this logic to your edge site? So what typically you do is you build a remote data gateway server, which communicates via MQTT to your remote site. So this is now where the action is happening. This is your edge site, and here you again have replicated the same networking. You are communicating to the devices. The data is collected. And what you do is you essentially push that data out via the MQTT to the DCIM server so that the monitoring data can go there and you can do a lot of logic there. You deploy a VM there so that you can put some logic into your edge as well. So if you want to do any immediate edge automation, then this VM is capable of doing some of this edge automation. But the main challenge here is ensuring that the DCIM actually sees the edge as part of its own on-premise infrastructure. So you build an application, the remote data gateway client and the remote data gateway server. They abstract the edge, abstracts away the network complexity of the edge. And your edges could be in different networks, but the DCIM sees as if it's a device. This diesel generator is just sitting on its own premise at the core data center, and that is how you build the entire logic of, this is how you bring the DCIM into, the edge into your DCIM and abstract away the network complexity. So essentially what it does is that now you could have massively scalable, monitoring platform. You would have multiple hundreds of sites which could have all of these different devices, but the DCIM suite, just sees all of those devices as something which is on-premise. And it can take, whether it is an automation or it is some sort of analysis that you are doing, it can do all of that and then present that to the user. So correlating data from multiple sites and bringing it to a single data management source is the main one of the first most important thing that needs to be done before we leverage that, right? So that is what we do. So, these are the typical, smart solutions that you put on the edge, where you build a integrated unit with all the cooling, and now, we actually bundle the data center DCIM suite with that. So now going on to, so I will quickly go through what are some of, so now you have collected the data. It has all come into one single location. The question is, what will you do with it, right? What are the main AI or what are the use cases that you can do? So first is, if you are on the edge, right? If you are a user who has a lot of edge sites, then the first thing that you can do is you need operation safety, right? You don't have people there on the edge, and you want to, you want to manage that with as much less people as possible. So the first thing we do, for example, is, can I have some water? So the first thing that you do is, you put an automation programmable unit in the edge device so that, you can automatically, so if, for example, we collect all the data from the sensors, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So thanks for that. So what, if you are on the edge, then what we do is we connect all the sensors, and we actually put a programmable control unit in our micro data center so that it can, you can put a logic there. So for example, if the fire suppression gets triggered, right? Then you want to inform the security guard to take some action. So we put an annunciator there, you put a buzzer there, and there are multiple different, logics that you can put there. If the door is not closed, right? So then, you want to inform the security guard because you won't have your own person there at your retail store or, at your edge location. So then, you put an SMS gateway there. So what happens if there is a fire? The first thing that gets burned is your, let's say, network connection to the core. Then, if you put all your DCIM at the core location, then who's going to act on that? Who's going to raise an alarm, right? So you want to put a redundant communication like an SMS gateway so that, even if the network connection goes out, the programmable controller there can see a security or a safety issue and then can trigger some sort of a alarm there. You can do a lot of cooling optimization there. Of course, there are a lot of algorithms now, and that is always available. Anomaly detection, right? So what happens if there is a buildup of humidity at your edge location, right? Let's say there's some problem with the cooling unit or the external temperature has changed and there's a risk of condensation within the rack itself. So can you predict a humidity buildup and do that? So there are anomaly detection algorithms which can do that. So I won't go into all of the use cases, but these are some of the main things. So if your primary automation use cases for the edge is around the safety and working with fewer people as possible. Now, if you are a colo provider, investing in kind of a DCIM platform with a lot of automation capability makes it very interesting. So your customers who are renting out racks, they do invest in software wherein, if you are deploying a hybrid cloud, then they want to move their workload from their on-premise to the cloud in dynamic conditions, right? So they need some sort of a software for doing that. The current, management platforms that you have, DCIM platforms, can do that automation. And colo providers can provide that as a service to their end customers, generating more revenue. Your customers also want to view inside the rack. So for example, typical DCIMs will give you a rack build-up feature wherein, you can build a rack, you can manage assets within the rack. Yeah. And that could be an additional source of revenue for the colo providers, wherein they can, and we have done this with a few of our customers where, they offer this as a service to their customers. And essentially, they can easily automate when the workload moves to the cloud, when it goes back, as well as, they can manage all their assets and have a view within that. They can automate floor planning, right? If a colo is managing an inventory of 100,000 racks, just imagine how difficult it is to manage and allocate those racks to customers, manage the life cycle of that rack. So that is a big area of, manpower saving or, time saving for them. Automate customer billings and reports, right? So that is very, very obvious. And of course, whatever I talked about, the remote data gateway. So for example, let's say a retailer is a customer at the colo, then the colo can actually go and say that, look, hey, I will give you a remote data gateway and I will connect all your stores and connect the POS machine to your main retail management software which you are deployed at the colo. And in case you have a problem at one of your store, then the remote data gateway gives you a backend to go and do the system administration for that retail store as well. So all of this, so basically investing in automation gives a colo provider additional revenue sources as well. It's not just about managing or saving effort. Core DC, these are some of the things which we have, spoken a lot about. Workflow or process automation, right? So a data center has a lot of, life cycle activities. You can completely automate that itself. You can automate alarm response and, reduce noise. So there is a lot of AI ML algorithms which help you. So one of the big problems with alarms is having a lot of them, right? And you don't really understand what is the key problem. So there are AI algorithms now which really learn and are able to cut out the noise from the real core issue, which are doing that. Then of course there is a lot of automation in asset discovery for cyber security. there is a lot of AI ML algorithms and services which are generally available. So the whole question is, do you actually have to do it yourself, or how will this whole thing evolve over the future? So when we talk of AI ML, do you need to now start hiring data scientists who will model your data center and do that? No, the answer is probably not. The future is going to be the OEMs are going to build services which are going to be exposed perhaps in the cloud, which you are going to consume, and that will bring more insights. So when I talk about cooling optimization, so there is probably going to be a service on the cloud by a cooling vendor who will help you, who will probably deploy an AI algorithm to optimize the cooling. So 4 places where Eaton is working on. The first is definitely on predicting failure. So for example, we've launched this service in the US, and we are planning to bring that in India, where we can predict, we look at the UPS load, we look at the ambient temperatures, we look at the temperature and humidity cycling, right? And can actually predict the useful life left in a capacitor, right? Which is one of the main things, why a UPS would go down. So we are able to predict failures in a multiple set of devices like UPS, chillers, motors, which are now available, through a service in the Eaton cloud. So, our industrial customers are already using that. We have a very, very successful product called InsulGuard, which predicts insulation failures before they happen, right? So, and this is again a product which is available in the market, and it actually uses, data science algorithms to predict this failure. We have deployed a lot of anomaly detection. So the use case of humidity detection, right, flooding in the within a data center, we've actually deployed that in a substation environment. So if you go on the Eaton website, you can actually see a whole video on that use case, right? And our cybersecurity platform. So especially on the OT cybersecurity, there are a lot of anomaly detection and intrusion detection algorithms which have been deployed, which use that. The third one is very interesting, right? So Eaton had a problem wherein, a lot of our senior service engineers are retiring in the next couple of years. So we've developed a chatbot with LLM technology. We have analyzed, we have given it more than, thousands of UPS installation reports and UPS failure reports, and that model has actually learned how to do UPS maintenance, or at least it's coming close to what you would be doing right, and we are testing that, 2 minutes, with the customers. And lastly, the forecasting and optimization. So these are very important when you're planning for growth. It gives you the better long-term, better plan you have, the more, better TCO you will be able to get by buying the right modular equipment. So last 3 points, what are the 3 summary things that you can do? First is define your monitoring, management, and automation use case, right? Choose a flexible software that allows an easy upgradation path and has a lot of these services, being developed in the pipeline. Lastly, build with API so that, that is your insurance for the future, because whatever services are expected to come are going to be some cloud-based services that you can do. So that's all from me, and I'll be available. I've run out of time, but if you have any questions, I'll be outside to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. May I request once again Mr. 𝗟𝗃𝗄𝗄 to join us on the stage to felicitate Mr. Shreesha.